After many long years of waiting, I finally sat down and started playing Metroid Prime Remastered. A game that I've heard so many great things of from a franchise I've always wanted to try out. From the great visuals, to the awesome music, and how it's the pinnacle of the Metroid series, I really wanted to try it for a really long time now, even though I'm not really the biggest Metroid fan out there. I've only really played a few hours of Super, and I just only recently beat my first game being Dread. But after picking up the game and playing for the first 10 hours or so, I gotta say, people are right. Metroid Prime is not only one of the best games from the Metroid series, but one of the best FPS games ever made. And I feel I just want to discuss my first impressions of the game, because I feel like, as one of the only Nintendo fans to not have beaten Metroid Prime, I might have a somewhat interesting take on the topic, because I'm basically a total Metroid noob baby. I don't know anything about it, so that's why I really just want to talk about Metroid Prime, talk about some of my first impressions from the first few areas, and just talk about it and have a good time. I won't really go into super big spoilers of the game, but just discuss really the bare bones, the first few hours, and just really talk about my experiences firsthand, jumping into the sub-series I've never really played before in my life, and just explain why it's impacted me in such a really fun and profound way, and why I want to become a Metroid fan and experience more of this series. And starting off, of course, with that would be the amazing visuals of the game, which look freaking incredible. I'm still shocked they're able to take a 22-year-old GameCube game, upscale and remaster to look even more beautiful than it did 20 years prior. And it's maybe my opinion, but I think Metroid Prime Remastered is one of the most beautiful looking Switch games I've ever played, even more than Breath of the Wild or even Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It's really that good. Every locale is fine-tuned to perfection, and everything has a reason to be there. From the snowy tundras of Phendrana Drifts, to the heated volcanic caves of Magmore Caverns, to even the beautiful wetness of Talon 4, it blends together so well and really helps engross you in that world. And I'll be real, the first time I landed on Talon 4 and saw those beautiful rain droplets fall into Samus's arm cannon, I said to myself, this game was different, but in a really good way, upgrading what needed to be fixed, but keeping the core elements alive that make the game a unique special experience to those big Nintendo fans. Like, for example, the HUD you see while you control Samus, I think is literally perfect. Everything is nicely spaced out, so it doesn't really feel overcrowded like most FPS games are nowadays, but everything is also really where you need it to be in a nice and easy location. Like, the maps and radars are on the top corners, while most combat-focused stuff like beams and visors are on the bottom. It's very nice and very clean, and as someone who has OCD who really wants everything to be in its place, that really helps me a lot and makes me know where everything is, how to switch to everything easy and manually, and it makes it all that much more fun to play with when you have everything in a nice cohesive place. The biggest thing I was worried about with the remake were the controls, because after playing only a little bit of the original game on GameCube, it didn't really control the best, having everything locked to really one stick to aim and control with. But to my surprise, they fixed the whole thing by not only giving us dual stick gameplay, thank Christ, but giving us 3 more control options to actually play with. Like even the original GameCube one for the people who actually enjoy that type of suffering of your hand movements. I don't know how y'all do it. But also adding the motion controls from the Wii Trilogy game, which was insane. I gotta be real, controlling Metroid Prime with motion controls, while not being the most optimal way to play the game in my opinion, it does work and does add to the immersion in some aspects and makes it kinda cool. Not the best, but kinda cool. Giving players the choice to play however they wanted was a genius move, and honestly, I don't think I would have played this much into the game without this many styles. Plus, like, dual stick just feels right to me to control. It makes things that much more tightly responsive for platforming and combat, and it just makes everything that much more easier to do. This even really extends to the morph ball as well, which I feel controls really great. Yeah, it might be a little bit loose in some tight corners, but just the pure feeling of being able to roll around and bomb jump and boost around the whole level is something really magical that you couldn't really replicate within the 2D space, and just makes the 3D games more fun and more enjoyable. And gotta be real, I love rolling around those half pipes. I don't care what anyone says, those half pipes are actually really fun and frustrating, but in a really fun mix. I really do love the morph ball in this game. The biggest and probably most important part of any action game is the combat, and Metroid Prime's is literally peak performance, amazing combat. I love it to bits. Just having everything from beams to missiles being so accessible to you with a single button press is so satisfying. That even small enemies to even giant bosses can be so fun to fight. And of course, that lock-on aim, which is a literal godsend that's helped me out of so many jams with my terrible aim. I don't really think I would have gotten again that much far in the game if it wasn't for the auto aim, which really helps you defeat any enemies from low and high to even bosses, which make them that much more fun to play with. One button, you're locked on, you shoot, that's it. That's amazing. I love it. And I really gotta thank Retro for thinking of us bad aimers, because that makes the game that much more fun for us. We are accepted into the FPS funhouse. Thank you, Auto Aim, you are a godsend. Now, of course, this wouldn't be a Metroid Prime gush fest. Ew. Without mentioning the music, the awesome, amazing environmental music that really makes the game what it is. Every track fits each area perfectly, and I can't see another track going in another track's place. From Magmore Cavern, the Talon 4 crash site, the opening menus, it's all amazing and fits the somber lone tone that the game is going for. Even if it's just a small track, that Chozo Ghosts theme, goddamn, I hate the Chozo Ghost so much. It all fits together so well, it makes you feel all the emotions like good music really should. And the only thing better than good music is good lore, and I think this game really does dive deeper on the lore than Metroid's franchise. Even though it's a really linear timeline from one game to another, with the scan visor, you can actually go ahead and scan, lore from the Chozos and the Space Pirates and see what they're working on in the background and basically how these creatures go ahead and live. And as a person who really is interested in history and old civilizations to a certain extent, I really do like that because in some games it would mostly just be normal random flavor text, but in Metroid Prime Remastered, you take the time and you can read all this stuff, you can know the history of what happened to this ancient civilization, what happened to them to die out, what's going to happen next, and it really makes you feel part of the world, makes you know the history, and makes you really feel connected and grounded to everything that's going on. And now after beating Metroid Dread, and now knowing the implications of the Chozo and all that, I gotta say it makes the lore a lot more compelling and a lot more interesting, and I'm excited to see how they're gonna build off of it with brand new Metroid games in the future. And I'm excited how they're gonna go about it with 2 and 3 and even Metroid Prime 4, where that will come out hopefully in the near future, maybe, possibly, who knows? Point being, the lore in this game is really great. It's not a big important part of the game, but for those who actually choose to read it, my god, it's some really damn cool stuff. Honestly, I could go on and on about why I love this game, but it's really insane how just 10 hours in, I've gotten so hooked on Metroid Prime Remastered. I want to play through the entire game, explore every nook and cranny, try to get 100%, play the sequels, learn about the stories and lore of the amazing worlds, and hopefully dive into the other entries and perhaps become a real die-hard Metroid fan. All this to say, I consider Metroid Prime is considered one of the best games of all time, and if you ask me, it damn well earns that title, and so much more. I love this game to no end, and hopefully, in the future, I'll become a real Metroid fan. Now, if you excuse me, I got some more Chozo Ghosts to run away from in fear. God, I hate those Chozo Ghosts!